Hey everyone, we are back and in chapter 2, lesson 5, and this is some additional practice that I want you to do in your note sheets. Now in a little bit I'm going to work out all these problems, but I want you to work them out on your own first. Now I wouldn't suggest doing the whole thing and then pressing play. I would suggest doing a couple, then pressing play, seeing how you did, and then doing a couple more, pausing the video, doing a couple more, and then pressing play and seeing how you did. So periodically, maybe line by line, I'm going to go ahead and work the whole thing out, but it's going to be on you to press pause and play, and you need to do it incrementally and not just do the whole thing and then check your answer. Because what happens, let's say you messed up on number 2 and then you happen to do the same thing, 10 more times, the same mess up. Well, what happens is by the end, when you go through these answers, you're going to have to do the whole thing over. Whereas if you do 1, 2, 3, and then you found that you made a mistake on 2, what that means is you're going to learn from that mistake. So when you proceed on to 4, 5, and 6, you're not going to make the same mistake again. And so you're going to do things, you're going to have a chance. It's going to be less work for you. So that's my advice as you're doing this. So I want you to go ahead and pause right now. Start working on this. When you get done with the first 3, then press play and check how you did. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. All right, welcome back. Let's go ahead and see how you did. So we're going to solve each thing and we're going to check each answer. So we're solving for P. We're trying to get P by itself. So we notice that P is not by itself. It's P minus 9. So we need to get rid of this 9. Now, how is this 9 related? It's related through subtraction, or 9 is negative. So that means we have to do the inverse operation. The inverse of a negative number is going to be a positive. So we're going to add 9 to both sides. That cancels. We're left with P. P is equal to, we have a negative 3 and a positive 9. The signs are different, so we're going to take the difference. The difference between 9 and 3 is 6. Now we just need to figure out, is it a positive 6 or a negative 6? When we look at 9 and 3, 9 is bigger, 9 is positive, so our answer is positive. So the answer to this would be P equals 6. Now we're going to go ahead and check our answer. So we're always going to write the original equation. So if you didn't write the original equation on your check, or if you didn't do your check, you need to pause now and work on your checks. If you don't have the original equation, you need to go ahead and write the original equation so it's the first thing you see after the words check. Now we're going to substitute 6 in for P, so we have 6 minus 9 equals negative 3. Okay, we're going to simplify. 6 minus 9, 6 is a positive number, 9 is a negative number. The signs are different, so we take the difference. The difference between 9 and 6 is 3, and then we look at which number is bigger. 9 is bigger and 9 is negative, so this is a negative 3, which is also equal to a negative 3. So this is a true statement, which means our answer is correct. Okay, let's go on to the next problem. Number 2, W minus 2 equals a negative 14. So we are trying to get W by itself. W is not by itself at the moment. There is a negative 2 on this side of the equation, so we have to do the inverse operation. The inverse of a negative would be a positive, and we have to do it to both sides of the equation, both sides. Negative 2 plus 2, that is 0, and it cancels that out, and we're left with W equals negative 14 plus 2. Well, this is a negative, this is a positive. The signs are different, so we take the difference. The difference between 14 and 2 is 12. 14 is a bigger number, and it's negative, so the answer is negative 12. Now we're going to go ahead and check. Go ahead and write that original equation. W minus 2 equals a negative 14. We're going to substitute negative 12 in for W. And we get a negative 12 minus 2 equals negative 14. So we have a negative and we have another negative number. So when both of the when they're both negative, what you do is you add the numbers together and you keep the sign. So our answer is going to be negative, and we go 12 plus 2 is 14, which is equal to 14. So this is a true statement, which means that our answer is correct. All right, let's go on to number 3. X minus 12 equals 5. We are trying to get X by itself. Right now, X is not by itself. We have to get it by itself. So there's this negative 12. How was it related to x? Through subtraction. We have to do the inverse of, operation of subtraction, which would be addition. We have to add 12 to both sides. That cancels out and becomes 0. We have x equals 5 plus 12 is actually equal to 17. Let's go ahead and check our answer. We have our original equation, x minus 12 equals 5. We're going to substitute 17 in for x. And we have 17 minus 12. And if I do that, 7 minus 2 is 5, 1 minus 1 is 0, so our answer is 5. So 5 equals 5 is a true statement, so our answer is correct. We did a great job. I hope you got all those correct. So now we're going to move on to 4, 5, and 6. I want you to go ahead and try to do those on your own first. So go ahead and pause, and then come back, press play, and we'll see how you did. Okay, we are back. We are still on number 5. We're trying to get x by itself. Okay, right now it is not by itself. There is a positive 7, so we have to do the inverse operation of addition, which would be subtraction. We're going to subtract 7 to both sides. This positive 7, that negative 7, they're going to cancel each other out and become 0. We're left with x and negative 5 minus 7. So a negative and a negative, they're both negative. So when the signs are the same, you add the numbers and keep the sign. So 5 plus 7 is 12. And you keep the sign. So it's going to be a negative 12, or x equals negative 12. Now let's go ahead and check our answer. We're going to rewrite the original problem and substitute that negative 12 in for x. And we're going to simplify. Negative 5 is already simplified, so we can't really do anything to that. Now we have a negative and a positive. So when the signs are different, we take the difference, and the difference between 12 and 7 is 5. And we look and see which number is bigger. 12 is bigger, 12 is negative, so our answer is negative. So this is a true statement, which means that our answer is correct. Okay, let's look at number 5. At number 5, we are trying to get k by itself. Is k by itself at this point? No, it is not. There's this plus 11 over here. So we have to get rid of it. How is 11 related to k? It's related through addition. So we have to do the inverse operation, which would be to subtract 11 to both sides. Okay, so that 11 and that negative 11, they cancel each other out. We are left with k, and then we need to simplify this. We have a negative 2 minus 11. Negative 2, that's negative. 11 is negative. We have two negatives, and so whenever we have things with the same side, we add them together, 2 and 11, which is going to be 13, and we keep the sign. So it's going to be a negative 13. I'm going to flip this around so it's k equals negative 13. Now let's go ahead and check our answer. Write the word check. We are going to rewrite the original equation. Now your paper should look exactly like this one. So if it's not, you need to change what you're doing. So when I look at your note sheets, it looks exactly like this. Okay, so we have the original equation. We're going to substitute in negative 13 for k. Now there's nothing multiplied by the k, so I'm not going to put in parentheses. I'm just going to write it as negative 13 plus 11, and that's okay. So rewrite this negative 2, and now we're going negative 13 plus 11. This is a negative, this is a positive. The signs are different. We need to take the difference between 13 and 11, which is 2, and then which number's bigger? 13's bigger, and 13's negative, so our answer is going to be negative 2. So negative 2 equaling negative 2 is a true statement, which means our answer is the solution to our original equation right there. Okay. On to number 6. On number 6, it's 10 equals negative 3 plus j. We are trying to get j by itself. So, is j by itself on this side of the equation? No, it is not. It is negative 3 plus j. We got to get j by itself. Well, there's this negative 3. How is negative 3 related to j? Well, it's related through addition, so we have to do the inverse operation. And this one's a little tricky because when you see the addition, you want to do subtraction. But really, addition tells you that the inverse operation is going to be addition and subtraction, right? Those are inverse operations. But for this one, since it's addition, you're going to be using one of those two. And what you do is you look at a -3. And what is the opposite of -3? The opposite of -3 is a +3. Okay? So we're going to do a +3 to both sides because our goal is to cancel this out and have it become 0. Okay? And -3 plus 3 is 0, which means we have j by itself. And then 10 plus 3 is 13. And I'm just going to rewrite this so j is on the left side. And so there is our answer right there. We're going to check. Okay, rewrite the original equation. 10 equals -3 plus j. Okay, and we are going to substitute 13 in for j. Okay, this is already simplified. And we have a -3 plus 13. 3 is negative, 13 is positive. The signs are different, so we take the difference. The difference between 3 and 13 actually ends up being 10. And we look at the numbers. We got to figure out is it a positive 10 or a negative 10. So we look at 3, we look at 13. Which number's bigger? 13 is bigger. 13 is positive, so our answer is actually ends up being positive. So this is a true statement. True. Which means j equals 13 is the correct answer. Okay, so now you guys are ready to start 7, 8, and 9. I want you to go ahead and pause, and then go ahead, and when you get done with these, press play, and we'll go over the answers. All right, we are back. Let's go ahead and do number 7. 3e equals -33. We're trying to figure out what e equals. So we need e to be on this side of the equation by itself. And right now it's not. There's this 3. So we have to figure out, well, how is 3 related to e? Through what operation? And 3e is the same thing as 3 times e. So it's multiplication. So we have to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. You are right. So we have to divide both sides by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. That cancels out and becomes 1. 1 times e is e. And this equals, we got to do 33 divided by 3. So I'm just going to do that off to the side. 33 divided by 3. 3 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. We're going to subtract that. That's 0. We drop down the 3. And then 3 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. And we subtract, and we have 0. So our answer is 11. But there's a negative divided by a positive. And whenever you divide a negative by a positive, your answer is going to always end up being a negative. So our answer ends up being e is equal to -11. So let's go ahead and check it. We're going to write our original equation, 3e equals -33. And then we're going to substitute this -11 in for e. Now, this e is right next to the 3, and it's 3 times e. So we have to make sure that when we put this -11 in, we put it in parentheses. If we do not do that, if we don't put it in parentheses, I'll show you, then it would look something like this. 3, and we put in the -11, and then you would read that as 3 minus 11, and that is not what's happening here. This is 3 multiplied by -11, so that's why we have to put the parentheses there, so we know that the operation in which 3 and the number we're substituting in for e is actually multiplication. So 3 times -11 equals -33, so we just need to figure out, well, what is 3 times 11? I'm going to go over here, 11 times 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 1 is 3. The answer is 33. And then we have a positive multiplied by a negative, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So we have -33 equals -33, which is a true statement. I'm kind of running out of room, which means the answer, e equals -11, is the answer to our original equation. All right, on to number 8. Number 8 is -49 equals 7n. We are trying to get n by itself. So in order to do that, it has to be on this side of the equation by itself. Is n by itself? No, it is not. There is 7n. So what we have to do is 7n is the same thing as 7 multiplied by n. So the inverse operation of multiplication would be division. We have to divide both sides by 7. So we have 7 divided by 7, which is 1. 1 times n is n. Those end up being 1, right? 1 times n is n. And then we have negative 49 divided by 7. A negative divided by a positive is always a negative. And 49 divided by 7 is 7. So our answer ends up being n equals negative 7. And then I'm going to do the check, rewrite the original equation, negative 49 equals 7n. And we're going to substitute that negative 7 in for n. We have to put it in parentheses. Whenever you're putting a negative in for a variable, when there's a number in front of the variable, you have to put it in parentheses. And we're going to simplify. So 7 times 7 is 49, and a positive multiplied by a negative is a negative. So we get the same number. That is true. It's a true statement, which means our answer is the answer to the original equation. Okay, we're going to move on to number 9. Negative 25 equals negative 5c. We're trying to get c by itself. The big question is c by itself? And it is not. There's this negative 5. Well, how is the negative 5 related to c? This is negative 5 times c. So negative 5 is related to c through multiplication. So we have to do the inverse operation of multiplication, which would be division. And we have to divide it by whatever this number is. This number is negative 5. So we have to divide it by negative 5 to both sides. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. 5 divided by 5 is actually 1. 1 times c is c. Now we have c by itself. Now we have to do negative 25 divided by negative 25. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 25 divided by 5, 5 goes into 25 5 times. So our answer is c equals 5. Now let's go ahead and check it. Write the original equation. 25 equals negative 5c. We're going to substitute 5 in for c. So we have 25 equals negative 5. I'm substituting the 5 in for c. And we're going to simplify. We have a negative times a positive, which is going to be a negative. 5 times 5 is 25. Well, this isn't right. Okay, so this is not correct. And the reason why it's correct, and this is something that you have to look out for, is because I didn't write my original equation down correctly. You see how I made those both positive? Well, I made them both positive because it was a negative 25 divided by a negative 25. But the original equation was actually negative 25. Do you see that? I'm going to zoom it in. So I know that I didn't get this right answer on my check, so something went wrong. And so the thing that went wrong wasn't my math. It was the fact that I didn't write down my original equation. And the original equation, before I started making marks on it, was negative 25 equals negative 5c. So that's what I needed to write here. And so when I write negative 25, negative 25, negative 25, I see that it actually is a true statement. And the answer that we have here, c equals 5, is the correct answer to our original equation. So you always have to be careful. It's really easy to make little mistakes, but that's why we check it. And so we check it and we say, hey, what happened here? And we re-look at our problem. And so that one just happened to be an easy fix. So now what I want you to do is I want you to work on 10, 11, and 12. So go ahead and pause, work those out, and then I will see you in a bit. Oh, where's our friend the pause dragon? There he is. Okay, pause, work them out, and then come back and press play. See how you did. All right, we are back. Let's go ahead and see how we did on this problem. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this problem so I don't make the same mistake that I did last time. Okay, we're trying to get n by itself. Well, is n by itself on this side of the equation? No, it's n divided by 4. How is 4 related to n? It's related through a division. So we have to do the inverse operation of division, which would be to multiply both sides of the equation by 4. This is 4 over 1. When you go 4 times n divided by 4, these cancel out and become 1, and you have 1 times n, which is n equals, and then we just need to figure out what 15 times 4 is. So I'm going to go over here and go 4 times 5 is 20. Write the 0, carry the 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 would be 6. So the answer is 60. Now I have to remember that I multiplied a negative times a positive, and a negative times a positive is a negative. So our answer is n equals negative 60. So now I have to check it. I'm going to rewrite the original equation. And then I'm going to substitute negative 60 in for n. Like that. Perfect. So now I have to figure out what is 60 divided by 4. So 60 divided by 4, I'm going to do that on the side here. 4 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. 6 minus 4 is 2, and I drop that 0 down, and then I figure out how many times is 4 going to 20. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20, and there's no remainder. So the answer is 15. But we have a negative divided by a positive, and a negative divided by a positive is always a negative. So we have negative 15 is equal to negative 15. So that is a true statement. So that means our answer of n equals negative 60 is the solution to the original equation right here. So we did it correctly. All right, woohoo! On to number 11. Okay, we have m divided by negative 6 equals negative 9. We are trying to get m by itself on this side of the equation. Is m by itself? No, it's not. It is divided by negative 6. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. Okay, so negative 6 is related to m through division. So we have to do the inverse operation to both sides, which would be multiplication. So we're going to multiply this side by a negative 6. And we're going to multiply this side by a negative 6. And see how I used a dot for multiplication? But over here I used parentheses because it was a negative number. And that's okay. They mean the same thing. Okay? So when we simplify this, a negative times a negative is a positive. And when we multiply these together, these 6 cancels out and they become 1. And 1 times m is just m. Now we have to simplify this. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 9 times 6 is 54. So that would be our answer. And now we just need to do the check. So I'm going to rewrite the original equation, which is m divided by negative 6 equals negative 9. And I'm going to substitute 54 in for m. Okay. Now I need to figure out, well, what is 54 divided by 6? I don't know that off the top of my head, so I'm going to do this. Does 6 go into 5? No, it does not. Does 6 go into 54? You know what? I think I did something wrong. Did I do something wrong or did I not do something wrong? Does it go in? It goes in 9 times. I know this. 9 times 6 is 54. I don't know what's going on with my brain. But yeah, it goes in 9 times. 9 times 6 is 54. So, and there's no remainder. I'm sorry, I'm having a little brain issue here. So it goes in 9 times, so the answer is 9, but it's a positive divided by a negative, which ends up being a negative. And negative 9 equals negative 9. This is a true statement, which means that the answer, m equals 54, is the answer to the original equation right over here. So we did it correct. All right. On to number 12, the last one. Let's see how you did. We are trying to figure out what s is. We're trying to get s by itself. So I'm going to rewrite the original equation. Okay, is s by itself on this side of the equation? The answer is no, it is not. It is being divided by negative 10. So negative 10 is related to s through division. So we have to do the inverse operation, which would be multiplication of negative 10, and we have to do that to both sides. And again, I said times negative 10, and then I'm showing multiplication using parentheses, and they mean the same thing. So negative times a negative is a positive, and when we do this multiplication, the 10s cancel out and they become 1, and we end up with S on this side. And a positive times a negative is a negative, and 8 times 10 is 80. So our answer for S is S equals negative 80. So we're going to do the check, and we're going to do S divided by negative 10 equals 8. We're going to substitute negative 80 in for S. A negative divided by a negative, that is a positive. And 80 divided by 10, 10 goes into 80 8 times. So our answer is 8. And 8 is equal to 8. And it's a true statement, which means our answer is correct. S equals negative 80 is the answer to the original equation. So woohoo, we did it right. I hope you did really, really good on this. Okay? If you have any questions, please let me know in class. But awesome job. Great work, and I will see you next time.